Dice Tower Tonight, episode 80.
Happy little board games.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, we've been doing a lot of painting here in Connecticut, and Crystal's dreaming about various colors in her new house, so it's a great time to discuss games about painting and art. Also, I have a new trivia game for Crystal in the chat to play. We run through some games we've played lately, and we answer questions from the audience live. My name is Eric, and joining me now, the Banksy of board gaming, here's Crystal.
I'm pretty sure I'm the opposite of. Wait, no. Oh, no, that's actually good because, like, a lot of people don't know who I am.
Yeah?
Like, they may have heard of somebody named Crystal, but they don't actually know who Crystal is because I'm not, like, that big. So I actually kind of like it. No, that's good. I'll take it.
As far as I know, we haven't learned who Banksy really is, so
That's baffling to me in
it
this
could be
day and
you.
age with the amount of internet sleuthing that exists. Like, how has that person stayed anonymous? I'm very happy, and I hope Banksy is never actually found out because the mystery is more interesting, I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. So quick update, Crystal. You are in your new house.
I'm in here, and I apologize for the audio. I do have my microphone close to me to help offset the fact that the room that my office is very echoey, like really echoey. So if my audio is not great tonight, that is on my end. That's not on Eric's. And I am going to be doing some things in this room to help absorb sound going forward, but I haven't quite figured out what the solution is because the room is quite big. Like, it's of all the rooms in the house, this one has the highest ceiling. Like, it is like there's the doorway, and then there's another like 5 or 6 feet on top of where you would normally expect the ceiling to be. So it's
Okay.
beautiful. I love it, but it's not good for audio,
Well,
which
I mean, do you want what I've done?
sure.
So I mean, here we go. I'm gonna make everybody sick, but uh, so here, there's the booth. Hi, booth. This is some sound paneling that the Auralex foam that I put there, but the ceilings of the room actually go much higher than that, and so let me get the good angle here. That is called a bass trap.
I've seen those online.
And there's actually a second one if you look around the
Yeah,
lights.
yeah.
And that was recommended to me very early on when I was trying to just. I didn't have the booth yet, and I was just using some doors with some Oralex foam and was just sort of talking into the wall over here. But they suggested that to try and cut down on some of the upper stuff bouncing around
Okay.
the ceiling.
No, that honestly, that's I saw those online and they're not like crazy expensive, but they're also not crazy cheap.
No,
So
they're
I
about 25 bucks a piece, I think.
but like I could easily, buy those and put those up corners and that might help quite a bit then. So that's good to know.
It very well might.
But this is not an audio production pot or video show. It's a board game
It
show.
is indeed. Yes, indeed.
Oh, Eric, do you want to have me go first, or do you want to go first, talking about what we've been playing
How about
recently?
how about I go first since I'm in charge of our communal game in a little bit. Um,
All right.
I got to play. So we do a family game night here in the house, and the children often get to choose. We take turns who chooses what to play, and the youngest just was having none of it. So my eldest decided to pull a two-player game, and so he pulled one of his and my favorites, Burger Joint, a game by Joe Huber from Rio Grande Games. Have you played this one, Crystal?
I have not. I actually saw that you tweeted about it
I
or
did.
something.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
And
when
I
we
was
got to the show.
interested because I've never actually even heard of it.
Okay, well, this is if you look at the box size, this is the same box size as the classic Cosmos two-player line, although it is not a Cosmos. This was an Abacus Spiele original publish. So Cosmos had nothing to do with it, but they don't own the box size, so that's what that is. It is an engine building and drafting game. It's a two-player game, and so one of you is the burger company, and one of you is the pizza company, and you sort of. So this is the burger joint, and that meshes up with this sort of central board, and then on the other side would be the pizza up in front of the other player. This represents all your different companies. You start out with some basic pizza joints, and that's down this way. And then there's these diners, specialty diners. And then you can upgrade the regulars into the specialty diners, and then you can upgrade the diners into specialty bistros, which have special abilities about, exchanging cubes and drafting cubes and getting all sorts of bonuses. And some of them are just worth a lot of points, but they don't have any special powers. The diners give you a special power for the drafting phase, and each of these buildings costs different sets of cubes. So you're collecting cubes to buy these buildings and upgrade the buildings in order to score points. And it's a race to 12 points. In fact, that's right here. On the big board, you have a little slider, and it goes up. And once you get to 12, you win. On a turn, you will pull a certain number of cubes, and they go in the center. They arrive on the truck, ingredients. If you are the only one that owns a particular diner, you notice that they have different cube colors on them. So there's a black and a yellow and a green and a red. If you're the only one that has that color diner, you will get first dibs on that color cube. So you sort of put them all in the middle, and then if you have a claim to those early cubes, they go into your sort of section of the board. And then the ones that nobody has a claim on stay in the center. Then, in turn order, whoever the active player is gets to take a cube, and they can take from their saved stuff or from the middle, but they can't take the stuff that's reserved for the other player. And then vice versa. But after that first round of drafting, everything goes in the middle. So that advantage only lasts for your first pick. Okay. And then you go back and forth and draft the cubes. Once you've done that, you can do some trading. You can do like 3-to-1 trades. You can use those special powers and then buy as many buildings and special things as you want. There's ways to steal cubes from somebody else. There's like a publicity action that you can steal cubes and earn points that way. And then you can only store 7 cubes. And you'll take cubes on the other player's turn, but you won't be able to do anything with them. So it's possible that you may draft cubes that you then can't use right away, and you're sort of at the mercy of your storage if you have a lot of cubes already sitting there. And this continues like that in this sort of back and forth tug of war until somebody reaches 12 points. It lasts about... It says half an hour, but it's probably a little more than that because I like to think a lot. Like if I'm staring at the cubes going, all right, if I take this one, he's going to take this one, and then he's going to take this. So I think this one through a little bit more, but to me, that's fine. I like Burger Joint. It's sort of an engine builder, and one I am really happy that my son wanted to bring out. So if you find a copy floating around somewhere, I think it's worth a play.
It sounds like something I would really enjoy.
I like it.
All right. Well, Eric, to show you what I want to show you for my recently played game, I'm actually going to have to do some mood lighting here.
You already have mood lighting.
I know, but this is going to get... We got to turn the lights down a little bit.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm going to turn...
It's time to bring the lights.
All of the lights in this room off, aside from the LEDs in the back.
We're bringing the lights down.
And then I'm going to move my camera.
Okay.
So hold on. We're going for a little adventure.
Is this a haunted house? What are we doing?
It is not a haunted house. Thankfully, that would be too much. Let's make sure I can actually get the camera set up. Hopefully that will work. And then I'm gonna click a little button here, and I'm gonna show you Blinks, Eric. So, Blinks is a game system of tiles. They are little, small, plastic, magnetic, intelligent tiles. This has been on Kickstarter a couple times in the past, and it is going back on Kickstarter next Tuesday morning with some new games. So the way these tiles work is each tile knows a single game. All of these tiles that you see in front of me right now know a different game, and they can teach the other tiles their game, so you can use all of the tiles to play any given game. So, like, for instance, right now, I'm going to grab, this is Dark Ball, okay? I'm going to push a button on the tile to send it into setup mode. So once it's doing that blue thing, it goes into setup mode. And then I'm going to connect it to the rest of these tiles, and it is now teaching its game to the rest of the tiles. So they're going to flash blue here for a few seconds while they're learning Dark Ball, which is the game that I specifically wanted them to learn. Dark Ball is actually one of the simpler games. I picked one of the kind of simpler ones, but it's one of the newer ones. It is kind of like ping pong in a digital format if it was, all right, there we go. So right now, this is a two-player setup of Dark Ball. This is a very simple setup. So right now, it's going to send the ball back and forth between, oh, and see this one missed. I didn't hit it quick enough, so now I have damage on this tile over here. But
Uh-huh.
now it gets to launch back.
And does it increase in speed?
Yes. Well, no, it's based on how the timing of your click. It'll be
Oh.
either slow, medium, or fast. But here's what's interesting about this: is it doesn't have to be a straight line.
What?
It doesn't have to be. It can. Let's grab this guy. Hold on. Here. Here. So now we've got a loop in the middle. So that ball, it can just fly around like that, like it did, or it can theoretically come right back to the person who launched it. And you can organize this middle part however you want. And so it kind of adds an element of randomness. And this is just one game. I have 14 different games here. So I wanted to show off at least one of them. It's kind of hard for me to get, the setup and everything to show you multiple of the games. But really, it's just, and I'm so bad at this when I'm playing against myself because it's just.
But you're guaranteed to win.
I know, right? Oh, gosh. Oh, and if you hit your button too early, see, and I lost on this one. But you can play this with more than two people as well. Basically, as long as you have an exit point. So now this is a setup for a 4-player game.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I could just. Oh gosh, there's no way I'm doing that on my own. It's not happening. So I have 14 different tiles right now. I'm going to turn my lights back on and bring you back over to me.
Okay.
But I wanted to show off some of the neat stuff here. It's hard to show you multiple games, like I said, but we're going to light. And also, here's one of the downsides of this really cool system is right now my lighting is not super high, and I can see everything really clearly, but I'm pretty sure on the camera it's probably a little harder.
It's pretty vague. Yeah, you can
But you're not
sort
usually
of
going to
see.
be. Yeah, you're not going to be playing this over a camera. So I can see things just fine, but if you are in a brightly lit room, it can become difficult to see some of the colors. And I should have showed you putting them to sleep. Here, hold on. So that any of the tiles that are connected to one another, I can long press one of them, and then it will send all of the tiles it is connected to sleep. Boom, they're off now.
Okay.
So it's very intuitive, like the way you manipulate the tiles, and they all talk to one another. So let me get to some of the details here. A lot of the games that are already built in this system are versions or inspired by games that you'll be familiar with. So there's one that's kind of like whack-a-mole. There's one that's a dexterity game where you're flicking the tiles. It's kind of like shuffleboard or curling. There's one the one that I just showed you is kind of more like Pong or table tennis. There's a game that acts kind of like the game Skull or Skull and Roses, depending on what you're familiar with, where it's a little bit of a bluffing game where you're secretly determining some of the tiles are bad and some of them are good and getting the other players to tap on the tiles, trying to find a bad one. There are 6 games specifically that I really love of the 14 that I have, but I've enjoyed almost all of them.
Okay.
So the ones that I really like, Puzzle 101, which is literally a puzzle game, the Volcano game, Fracture, which is an abstract strategy game, Astro, which is a real-time game, Flick Flop, which is the dexterity game that I talked about, and then Dark Ball, which is the one I just showed you. They are all really neat. There's also one of the tiles is a widget that will allow all of your tiles to turn into D6s or coin flips or colored spinners. And there are games associated with all of those things. So you could use them as just their widget form or in game form. Basically, Blinks is a unique and ingenious design that I think is perfect for people who enjoy games with a small footprint or who want to wow their family and friends with something novel, but that's more than just a gimmick. Because I've said here before, and I'll say it again, I love a good gimmick. I do. Like, I'm all about the gimmick. But these are more than that. Now, here's the downside. They're not cheap. And I think that that makes sense considering what you're getting. You're getting a whole bunch of tiny computers, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know what their pricing is going to be like on their new Kickstarter, so I don't want to speak specifically to what the pricing is going to be. But you can buy them usually in sets of 6, and they come with this cool little sushi roller that is magnetic that just holds all of them. So I put 6 of them in here right now, but this is magnetic. It just stays right on there.
Those are a lot
And
thicker than it looked just when they were on the table.
It's like...
That's at least double stuff Oreo. That's probably triple stuff Oreo.
I would say standard Oreo. Like,
oh, that's at least double stuff.
Maybe double stuff. But yeah, they have these little storage cases that come with them that are really neat and handy. So you could literally just throw 1 or 2 of these into your game bag, and you've got, if 6 games in just one of them, 12 in 2.
Yeah.
The games are definitely on the lighter side, but I don't think that that's a knock against the system. If they were super complex, it wouldn't be approachable. So this is definitely a luxury board game product based on the price, but the games are easy to learn and they cover a wide variety of interest levels. So if you're one of those people who likes to throw fun, quick filler games into your bag, this will account for like 12. Like if you put 2 of these rolls in your bag, that's 12 filler games you've got right there, basically. Yeah. And are all of the games amazing? No. But most of them are solid and a few of them are awesome. So I really enjoy these quite a bit. And their new Kickstarter has a couple new games, and the software is also open source. So if you are someone who is computer programming minded, you can design your own games for this system. You can buy the system and then make your own games for it. And they've actually included some community created games, I believe, in some of their expansion sets and possibly their new Kickstarter. I'm not 100% sure which games were designed by the community, but I know that they're very open to people messing with the software and finding new ways to use this system. I actually came up with an idea as I was playing one of their other games. I think it would be a neat social deduction game. But obvious downsides, hard to play in a well-lit area, probably like a convention hall. There are color blindness issues as well because the lights are different colors. And there are a couple of games at least that specifically rely on the difference between red and green, which is one of the most common forms of color blindness. Mm-hmm. So there are downsides, but if you have some money to burn because you haven't been spending as much this year during the pandemic, a lot of us, we're not going out to eat, whatever. If you're looking for something fun and different to add to your board game bag, I honestly, I would recommend this highly. Again, it's not cheap. So I'm not saying, blow your last whatever dollars on this, but if you have the money and you're interested, I would recommend it. I've really enjoyed playing it.
Cool.
And I'm sorry I couldn't show you more of the games because it's really neat, but it's hard to get everything set up quickly and demo it.
Yes. Plus you have to teach all those tiles all the games.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, there's one that's called Zen Flow, and it's literally not even a game. It's just flowing colors, and when you tap it, it changes and flows across the whole landscape. And honestly, it's kind of been good for my anxiety. I literally just sat there letting the colors wash over the tiles, and I just really enjoyed it. I was like, this sounds kind of pointless, and then I was still playing it.
Well, then it's therapy.
It is. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't purport to make any medical claims, but it actually did kind of make me feel a little bit zen. So it works as advertised, I suppose.
Okay. You ready to play a game, Crystal?
I am definitely ready to play a game.
Awesome. So this one showed up at the house a week or two ago. It's a new party trivia game. It's called Trivia Trolls. From in fact, where's the publisher name? It's just, okay, this is one of those game companies where the name of the company is the game. So Trivia Trolls LLC is the publisher of this game. It was published this year.
Is interesting.
What was that?
The tagline on the front of the box: the world's first
party strategy trivia game. That is quite the claim. For 4+ players, ages 8 and up. The the way the game is supposed to work is that there will be two teams. You've got a score pad, just you're racing to a certain number of points. It looks like 11 points, and you've got little score markers that track you along. I was a little worried when I first opened it up, and it says, winning a game of Trivia Trolls is very simple. The first thing you have to do is, and then on the bottom, like everything below have to do is printed in blurry ink. So there's no, you can't read what it says. And I was like, oh, great, it's one of those games. But
Eric, I'm going to cut you off for just a tiny second.
Yeah.
Because the people who make blinks are actually in the chat now.
What?
And I know, they showed up. And they said that regarding the red-green color blindness, they make sure that the red animates so that people who do have red-green color blindness can still play the game. And I did not know that, and I apologize for not being aware of that. So I think that that's really cool.
Is cool. And they were just summoned because you mentioned them. That's fantastic.
I mean,
they just appeared.
Wait, hold on. So who else can I summon? If we talk about Tom, will he just poof here into the chat?
Okay, so Trivia Trolls, it's a standard trivia game. So there's, I think, 7 different categories of questions. So this is a geography question, and there's 3 different clues on the card, that are worth different numbers of points. So the team at first finds out, oh, this is a geography question. Do you want to go for 1, 2, or 3 points? If it was the 3-point question, the clue would be, this capital city was named by Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom and is also the 7th coldest capital in the world. And you might not get it from that clue. But the 2-point one is, the Senators are a professional ice hockey team located in this city.
I think I actually know that.
Do you know this one?
Senators. Is it Ottawa?
It is Ottawa. And the 1 point is, this city located in the province of Ontario is the capital of Canada. But that's the easier clue. So pretty straightforward so far. The twist, and why they say it's a strategy game, is that the players on the teams have these other cards from a different deck. They include traps, which get played. Yeah, I heard that Zoom go by. You got a racetrack outside. Yeah. There are trap cards that the other team can play when one team is answering a question. This one says, deduct 1 point for each time the opposing team rereads the clue out loud. And these things get placed face down. You just go, I'm playing a card right now on your answer. And then it gets revealed after you answer. But if somebody plays one of these on you, your team can play a trench card, which is some sort of defense, which negates these styles of cards. The other thing, where'd you go? It's this one. Then there's the third type, the troll cards. These are complications for how you give the clue. So this one says, the player reading the clue must read it without closing their mouth.
Oh, no. Well, Sterling is very upset about that one, obviously.
Yes. So that's the way the actual game is played. You sort of dole out your resources. You only have so many of these mess-up cards, and you have to choose when you're going to play them. What we're going to do is that I have chosen one question, semi-randomly from each of the categories. So we've got 7 questions, Crystal. I think our goal, well, it looks like the scoreboard goes to 11. So we're going to try and reach 11 points with these 7 questions. The trick is that after you decide how many points you're going to go for, I'm pulling one of those troll cards. So as far as chat goes, they can help you as much as they want. Because I don't know, depending on what the troll card comes up, this might be extremely difficult. I really have no idea. So, this could be great. This could be ridiculous. Or both.
I'm actually kind of excited. Like, when you were reading it, I was like, but like describing it, but this actually sounds pretty fun.
So I'm going to give this a little bit of shuffle so that we don't know what order these questions are going to come in. Your first category, Crystal, is history. Would you like to go for 1, 2, or 3 points in history?
I am not great with history, but if Chad is going to be helping me, I'm going to go for 2 points.
2 points. The troll is the player reading the clue must sing the clue in their best opera voice. Really strive for a beautiful soprano.
I'm so excited.
Before becoming the 18th president of the United States, this man led the Union Army as commanding general of the U.S. Army to victory in the American Civil War.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call that soprano, but aside from that, it was beautiful.
And now you have to answer.
I'm gonna. Honestly, what's funny is I'm really bad with American presidents. I know like a couple of the notable ones. Like I know Abraham Lincoln was number 16, but 18 by itself, just the number wasn't enough for me. But since 3 people in the chat have said it, I'm going to say Ulysses S. Grant.
Grant is correct. Well done. 2 points for Crystal in the chat. So I just dropped the score marker. There we go. So simple as that.
Right.
Your next category, entertainment. 1, 2, or 3 points.
I'm gonna go for 3, and I'm actually gonna hide the chat at first. I'm gonna give myself some like time, especially if you're only making me go to 11. Like we'll see if I can.
This is, the rules for playing with chat are not in the box. So
right. They never are. Wait, why? Board game publishers, this Dice Tower Tonight is a really good show. Y'all should put some rules in the box for playing this with the live chat. I'm just saying.
Nick says that was tenor at the highest. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't warm up. All right, going for 3 points in the subject of entertainment. The troll is all right, you wanted a soprano? Here comes the soprano. The player reading the clue must do so in their best Mickey Mouse voice.
Oh boy!
Gee, this ought to be great!
You actually have a pretty good Mickey there.
This 1994 film won the Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Visual Effects, and Best Film Editing.
94. 94 was a really good year, I feel like, in film. Was it Forrest Gump? It had to have been Forrest Gump. I think. I'm gonna look at the chat now.
Okay.
And I'm gonna see. Okay, one person has only seen it by now, and they also said Forrest Gump. So, but 94, I specifically remember, like, had a lot of really good movies come out that year. But I am going to say, no, Titanic was 99, Jerry. I know when Titanic came out. I pre-ordered the 2 VHS box set from Blockbuster. I forced my father to do that for me. Just saying. But no, Titanic was later. I think it's Forrest Gump. Let's go with Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump is correct. 3 points for Crystal in the chat. Although you pretty much had that on your own.
1,
2,
97? I had Titanic wrong. Darn it. Okay.
It's a serpentine track. The score track is serpentine. So
I do not like serpentine tracks.
Right.
I get that in theory when you're moving a piece it makes more sense, but like visually it weirds me out.
All right, well, you're well on your way. You're practically halfway there after only 2 questions. Your next category is sports. Would you like 1, 2, or 3 points?
I'm going to go for 1 because
1 point.
While I think I'm more sports inclined than a lot of nerds would purport themselves to be, there are certain sports I have very little knowledge in. Please tell me it's not basketball.
The troll is the player reading the clue must read the clue without any vowels.
Oh my gosh.
G-d-l-k, it says. Okay. For 1 point. Nt, t, b, k, n, f, s, d, w, t, t, Mm, s- t- the spurt. Mm, cl-
Not even listening to
d-
you
s-
anymore.
t- erms. St- s- wok. T- s- st- mps. And. Bo. Ers.
I'm really not listening. I'm gonna say Mickey Mantle. Just because he played baseball. And I have no frame of reference for what the actual answer to this question is.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So, I'm just gonna read because there's no way that was wrong. Mickey Mantle was wrong.
I mean, shocking.
Not to be confused with the insect, this sport includes terms such as wickets, stumps, and bowlers.
So that would be croquet.
No.
No. Oh, polo?
No.
No.
Not to be confused with the insect.
Oh. Wait. Cricket.
Cricket is right, but you don't get any points because you weren't listening. That's really what happened.
I mean, I really wasn't. You broke me a little bit, honestly.
So apparently some of these make it virtually impossible to
Which now I feel a little bit better about how my early lead, and also a little bit not as secure about my early lead.
Okay, there are tears in my eyes. Geography is your next category. 1, 2, or 3 points.
Aside from history, geography is my other not great subject.
Okay.
I'm going to go for the 2.
2 points.
And I'm going to hide the chat for now.
Okay, for 2 points. And the troll is... The player reading their clue must do so in their best Yoda voice. Answered the question must be before points earned, maybe.
You were built for this game, I'm just going to say.
Mount Kilimanjaro in this continent is a dormant volcano. Oh, no. Mount Kilimanjaro in this continent a dormant volcano is.
Yeah, so like that's a really well-known place. And I just Kilimanjaro.
Miss Piggy would have sounded very different, Hawkskull.
I'm gonna say Asia.
No, it's Africa.
Oh god,
Kilimanjaro's in.
Again. I'm so dumb. I'm sorry, chat. Oh.
Sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti.
Toto would be so ashamed.
No points for you.
For the record, I was a straight A student, but geography and history were the ones that I struggled to get and had to memorize things for.
3 questions to go. You still have to get 6 points.
Okay.
This category is mystery.
Mystery?
It's like a catch-all category, so it could be any of the other categories. Mystery.
Let's go for 3.
Going for 3. The troll is... The player reading the clue must read it in reverse, starting with the last word, ending with the first word, and may only read the clue once.
Of course, and I can't write things that quickly, so...
3 points. Okay. Are you ready?
No.
Division, cell, of, metaphase, the, undergoing, is, cell, a, when, microscope, light, a, under, visible, normally, is, molecule, DNA, this.
This DNA molecule is visible under a light microscope. Something, cell division. I actually got most of that. Kind of.
This might be a good one to check with chat.
Under a light microscope. So the division of cells. Come on, science class, come back to me.
Chat typed it. Several people typed it as I went.
I mean, that's smart of them, but I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to try. Um, when cells divide, what is that process called? Cytosis? God, you know that TV show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? I'm not, is the thing. So.
I mean, you could maybe glance at chat and not read the whole blocks of text.
Yeah, okay, we'll glance. Let's see. Oh, people are saying chromosome, but like, I thought it was a process that, oh, see, Kabuki Kid said mitosis, and I was thinking cytosis. I know those are different. I'm going to go with Kabuki Kid because it's close to what I said, so I'm going to say mitosis.
Mitosis is incorrect.
Please don't tell me it's cytosis!
This DNA molecule is normally visible under a light microscope when a cell is undergoing the metaphase of cell division. The answer is chromosome.
Okay, so they were right, but all right. I'm just proud of myself for even attempting to figure that out.
So 2 questions left. You're trying to get 6 points. So this has to be 3, right?
That early lead. Okay, well, we're going for 3.
Your category is pop culture.
Okay, this is more my speed, generally.
Your troll is... The player reading the clue must read it in their best German accent. Okay, so the way I try and get into German is I remember Moritz Eggert from the podcast. Hello, my friends. This is Moritz Eggert from Munich, Bavaria. This video game franchise includes game titles such as tennis, golf, baseball, paper, and Odyssey. This video game franchise includes game titles such as tennis, golf, baseball, paper, and Odyssey.
And this game is a new game that was just published, correct?
This game was made in 2020, yeah.
Okay. I mean, the thing that came to mind immediately was Wii Sports, but that's not really a video game franchise. Like, the franchise thing is throwing me off here. Unless it's...
I did not pick the one that I did not cherry pick the trolls.
Oh my gosh, of course it's Mario. Paper Mario. Oh my gosh, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis. Yeah, I'm sorry, chat. It's like the just one thing where you just can't connect the dots even though it's so obvious. Yes, I'm going with Mario.
Mario is correct. So 3 points for Chris.
If you'd said Dream Team, I would have known. Oh, that's Mario and Luigi Dream Team, though. That is an underrated 3DS game, for the record.
All right. Your final category, and again, I'm assuming you're going for 3 points, is science.
Oh, gosh.
Where was the one that was... Yeah,
Kevin was like, read the chat. I hit the chat. I'm trying to boost my self-confidence or self-esteem, and it's not working, Kevin. You're right. I'll read the chat this time.
All right. Here comes the troll. The player must sing the clue to the melody of Mary Had a Little Lamb. -1 point if the player doesn't know the melody.
Well, that's kind of cruel.
Here we go. The name of this process originates from 2 Greek words, the first meaning light and the second meaning putting together.
Light putting together. A process in science that comes from Greek words. I have the chat up, but I'm just not looking at it yet. So I'm looking above. Just looking at.
Kevin just says, you got this.
Aw, thanks, Kevin. Light putting together. Fusion. Light putting together. Greek words. I mean, almost, for the record, a lot of stuff comes from Greek or Latin. Like, that's basically, everything traces back to Greek or Latin. Okay, I'm looking at the chat. Oh, I'm going to go with photosynthesis.
You in the chat have successfully completed the game. Just barely across the line with 11 points. That is Trivia Trolls. It's silly. But imagine playing those trolls strategically on the opponents at opportune moments, sort of to mess them up when on a pop culture question or something, you play a really nasty troll, making it difficult for them to guess.
I think this one would really be fun. Okay, Sterling, no, you don't get to play. I'm sorry. No. Okay, he's literally barking at the stairs.
Oh,
Like the stairs in my house. Hey, buddy, come here. You're
he's
okay.
cheering for the racetrack outside.
They've been a little bit, like anxious in the new house. They're not used to all the sounds and things yet. So apologies for the barking. But no, I think this would be interesting if I also had a copy of the game and you and I played the exact same thing you just did, but back and forth.
Okay.
Like I would, because that way you don't have to do all of the silly things yourself. Although admittedly, that was a delight.
That was entertaining.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. So let's talk about some art games, shall we?
That's a difficult transition, but yeah,
nothing.
There's nothing. Yeah. So as we said in the intro, I've been painting a lot, getting this house ready to sell, and you've been dreaming about how to enliven your new home in various painting and color related ways, and so this seemed to make sense of games that not necessarily showcase fine art, although some of these do, but that actually embrace a theme of painting or of art collection or I had suggested painting and you wanted to expand it a little bit into art games in general. So what comes to mind when you think game about art?
Well, what's interesting for me is that during basically my entire time as a board gamer, art as a theme has always been incredibly appealing to me. And I'm not 100% sure why that is. I wanted to be an artist when I was young. Like I actually wanted to be like a drawer or a painter or some kind of artist. I took art classes outside of school, like actually like private art classes. And then in middle school, they make you choose between art and music. And I went music and never looked back. And I kind of regret that because I don't really like playing the flute all that much. But yeah, like I've always enjoyed art. I like going to museums. I like making art. Like I do acrylic pouring. I've shown off that Meeple Dice Tower that I did like that. And I do canvases with acrylic pouring. I've always been a creative person, and that in my professional life has turned into writing rather than creating visual works of art. But I think just my love of art in general makes me really gravitate toward this theme in games.
Violent Frog in the chat brought up modern art, which is one of the games that I thought of immediately. It is an auction game that uses actual, or they're not actual art pieces. They're made up art pieces, but you are auctioning works from various artists, various painters, and they all have a style to them. I'm thinking of the original version of the game, but there's some artist named Light Metal, and they have a particular aesthetic style. There's like a pointillist artist and a pop artist, and it's kind of cool to see the different paintings of that artist show up as you auction them. So that was one that came to mind for my list as well.
For sure. Yeah, I actually had never played modern art until late last year or early this year. Time is kind of a blur at this point, but like within the past year and a half was the first time I ever played it. And it had been on my want to play list for a while. It's a really solid auction game. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But if somebody is looking for a game that does contain actual works of art, the one that I recommend hands down is Starving Artists, which was actually one of the first few board games that I backed on Kickstarter years ago. Like I want to say the original Kickstarter, this is a guess, I don't actually know, but I want to say it was around like 2014, 2015. Back when I first was kind of getting into backing games on Kickstarter, and they just re-kickstarted it a year or so ago, and that Kickstarter went south because the person that it had gotten licensed to did some bad things with it. But Deepwater Games has since picked it up and is completing the fulfillment for the expansion and the copies of the game. So that's really cool. But Starving Artists literally has paint cubes that are different colors, and then you're putting those paint cubes onto cards that contain real works of art, but it isn't all traditional art. Like some of it is, but they also have things like comic book covers and other really neat modern pieces of art that are in the game, that are honestly really, really cool. I love it. And honestly, there's so many cards in the game. You only go through a small percentage of them each time. So every time I play it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And I'll look up the artist and actually learn more about it. And it's fascinating. And the gameplay is solid as well.
There are two other games that have that a similar approach where you're collecting cubes and trying to complete orders or complete works of art.
I can name one of them.
Fresco is one that's been
Okay.
showing up in the chat, where that's a cool worker placement game where you choose at the beginning of a round how early you want to get up. And so you send your workers into the market. So whoever chooses first picks one of those positions on the timeline. And the earlier you get up, the more expensive everything's going to be, but you get first choice of the paint that's available. But if you wait a while, in fact, if you wait long enough, you get bonuses because your workers love you. You let them sleep in. And you get all the cheap paint that's left over. And Bob Ross, The Art of Chill, is another one that popped up in the chat where you're collecting paint and supplies and making the combinations to perform works of Bob Ross art.
I was actually going to say a different game that does something similar, which is Pastiche, which I believe is
Yes.
out of print now. But that is a really fun one as well. Starving Artists kind of replaced Pastiche for me, but you are collecting different paint colors to complete works of art in that game as well.
Yes, I was trying to think of Pastiche and I couldn't remember. I've only seen that one from afar, but the production of that was always cool. That's the one that has the easels, right? You
Yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah,
have a.
yeah.
So those are the ones that were about creating art that I had written down. There's also we mentioned modern art, about collecting art. Artsy is a fairly recent title from the last year. I guess last Gen Con is when this one came out from Renegade Games, where you're creating sets of a particular artist and you're relating to the neighbors, the other wings of the gallery to your left and your right, and the proximity to your neighbors also affects your scoring. It's kind of a neat system about collecting different sets of art as well.
I haven't played that one, but I'm definitely interested in it. One that I wrote down that I think most people wouldn't necessarily remember to put on a list about art games is Belrati, because Belrati is
Yes.
about curating a museum gallery filled with art and trying to find the forgeries that Belrati is slipping in. And it wasn't available in the States at first. There was this big thing at BGG Con where everybody was clamoring for the few copies that Board Game Geek had acquired. And then it did get picked up, I believe, and published more widely. I have messed up the rules on it most of the times I've played it because it was taught to me with a box that didn't have the English rules, and then I just disseminated those bad rules to a whole bunch of other people. But it is really fun, and you've got some people that are um, the ones who are setting up the clues to give to the rest of the group, and the other people are trying to use those clues to figure out what the forgeries are and what they aren't. And it's cooperative, which is interesting for that type of game. I really like Belrati, and honestly, it made that big splash right away. Like when people kind of got excited about it during that one BGG con, and then honestly, I don't hear people talking about it as much anymore. So I don't know if it's not been as widely available, but it's a small box game, and I highly recommend it.
Yes, and I picked that one up in Essen for something like it was under €10. So like if you're actually there, it's super cheap. It didn't go over well with my family though, so I actually gave that to someone who really wanted a copy, and let that one go. But I totally understand, why people like it so much.
Yeah.
Other So a few people have brought up in the chat games where you create the art. I was wondering whether we consider this an art game, stuff like Pictionary or A Fake Artist Goes to New York or Telestrations. Is
I
that
mean,
an art game or is that sort of a separate category altogether?
I think I would consider those to be drawing games or party games or both. and not art games, because I think just because something is being drawn, it does not mean that the game is about art. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, in Telestrations, you're trying to make a chain of, word to picture to word to picture, so the art isn't the focus. Or in Pictionary, you're trying to get a person to guess a clue, so the art isn't, like, even though there is drawing involved, it's not the focus of the game. It's just the mechanism via which the game is played. So for me, those games wouldn't necessarily fall into an art category for me, but I still really enjoy them.
Going back to Bellratty, or I always thought it was Bellratty because it's a rat.
Well, so I don't, because I'm not sure. I know that the name is a pun. It's a German pun because there was a real art forger, and I believe his last name was Belrachi or
Ah,
something
okay.
like that. But I honestly have no idea what the actual pronunciation of the game title is. But I know that because I wanted to know why the game was named the way it was. I was like, yeah, there's a rat in it, but what's the rest of this? And I looked it up, and there was a real art forger that they kind of used as inspiration in creating the game.
Then I'll stick if that it's Bellratty.
Yeah,
Bellratty.
yeah.
Bell whatever.
Belratty. Yeah.
Kabuki Kid mentions that a Yellow was supposed to come out with a rethemed edition of the game,
Okay.
but wasn't sure if it's out yet.
I feel like that was supposed to be a while ago, so maybe it didn't happen. I'm not sure. But speaking of Yellow, I think. I believe the game that I'm about to mention is published by Yellow. Kanagawa is actually another one of my favorite art themed games. In Kanagawa, you're actually painting a landscape. You're adding cards to your in front of you, and each time you choose a card, you draft a card from the middle of the table. You have to choose whether you want to add it to your landscape or add the things at the bottom of it to your tool set, which will make it easier to paint more things in the future. Like, it's one of those games where you only have like one of two options basically, but the decisions can be really interesting based on how they'll affect future gameplay. And the artwork in it is gorgeous. I love Kanagawa. I actually have the Yokai expansion for Kanagawa. I just got it like about a year ago and then hadn't brought it out. Then the pandemic hit. So it's still in shrink and I really want to try the expansion with it.
The last thing that I wanted to mention that came up on my list was a game that is specifically about color, which is such a big part of painting. There's a new, relatively new party game from the op called Hues and Cues, where you're trying to get your team to guess a specific color, and trying to get them close to it by giving examples of that color to get them to hone in on it. I haven't played it, but it's one that has been talked about on the podcast, and it sounds interesting and kind of tricky to try and figure out what someone would think of when a particular hue is presented to them.
Right, because yeah, like the board. I remember I saw. I don't. Maybe Tom did a review of this, or I saw
Yeah,
somebody show it off on video, and it's every shade of every color basically you can imagine. And so yeah, it's like, is it this green or this slightly darker green or that green that's a little bit more yellow? Like yeah, when you say Kermit the Frog, what shade of green do people think of? And
right.
honestly, it looks fascinating to me. I really would like to play that one at some point. But again, similar to what we were mentioning earlier, I would also be curious to know how this game plays with somebody who has color blindness issues, because it feels like
Yeah.
any game where color is, key to the gameplay. There are certain games that you just cannot account for color blindness in.
Right.
Now, whether that's okay or not is another discussion, but like Illusion is a good example of a game where I think if you're colorblind, you're just basically out of luck. You just can't play Illusion, for instance, which is a great game, but
Yeah.
yeah, no colorblind. But Hues and Cues with the shading, if you know that this section is green, I would be curious to know how that would work.
Yeah, so I mean I think the op has promoted it as being able to be played with folks who are colorblind because it's all about your perception of this gradient.
Okay.
So, but I guess it would be an issue is if you can't separate this gradient from this collection of colors. But if you knew that the greens are over here and the reds are over here and the blues are over here, then maybe you'd be able to hone in on it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they referred to it as being more friendly because it is about the individual's perception of these hues, and being able to differentiate between them in your own personal way.
That's
This
really cool.
square would match to an apple in your mind, whatever your perception. It's like that crazy thought experiment that says what you think of as red and what I think of as red may be totally different things.
That
It's
no,
just
every
the way
time I
our
think about
brain.
that stuff, my brain explodes. Like the fact that like what I perceive to be purple, like somebody else might see entirely differently. And like you really will never know. I mean, I
Right.
guess we do because there are ways to measure like the light spectrum. Like specifically, there are ways to measure that thing, but like you'll never know what I see.
Right. How
There's
does
no
your
way I can't.
brain
Yeah.
yeah, translate that?
I just the human brain is fascinating.
The last one that came up in chat as well, I think Juju Latour, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Juju, um, mentioned Pentone, which is another party game from Scott Rogers, that you create objects out of the Pantone color, like color swatches, and you sort of mosaic your way into trying to get your team to guess things. Although I think that probably goes more toward the drawing games, the Pictionaries and such,
Yeah.
than it is about art.
I will not give my thoughts on Pantone as a game because they would not be kind.
Oh no!
It was one of the few party games that I played that I just absolutely was just super frustrated by
Wow.
because
Okay.
it's all pop culture characters. Like there's nothing like
Ah.
the thing is it's not that the game is bad, it's just the things that are included in the box, a lot of them people won't know. So then you're trying to give abstract clues about a thing that people have no knowledge about. And it's
Okay.
so
If you don't
annoying.
know the reference, yeah, you're in trouble.
Right. I literally we broke the rules because I was just trying to get people to guess the I think it was the Wizard of Oz or no, it was the Wicked Witch of the West. I literally took cards from the box, like every card out of that box, and I made the witch, Dorothy, Glinda, flying monkeys. Like I literally used those colors to create the entire cast. And then I was focusing in no one could get it. And everybody knows the Wizard of Oz. And at that point I was just like and once they knew the answer they were like, "No, you did an awesome job." But it just does not work. At least for me. I
Huh.
know other people really enjoy
Okay.
it.
Okay. That's my whole list. Were there any others that came up in your pondering?
No, I think we covered all of the ones I thought of. So I said, that these games with an art theme really appeal to me. What about you? Like when you see a game that has art as a theme, is that something that you're kind of drawn toward, or that you just kind of come across happenstance?
Yeah, I'm pretty neutral on it. I do like when a game can utilize existing art in some interesting way. I know Scythe was sort of inspired by existing art from the primary artist on that game, and I'm blanking on their name. But that was a world that existed before Scythe was themed that way. There's a deck building game that I've always enjoyed called Fantastica that uses existing art from like the New York Art Gallery as its art design for the game, and how they utilized elements of these famous paintings or semi-famous paintings into the game is kind of cool and turned it into an adventure.
Oh, Kevin mentioned Sagrada. That's actually a really good point. Creating stained glass windows is definitely art, and
Yes.
that's a good one that we probably should have mentioned. I love Sagrada.
Yes. And then I guess Azul and its spin-offs would also
Yeah,
apply as you are creating, tile mosaics.
yeah, for sure. Well, if you all in the chat have any other art games that we didn't mention that you want to shout out, please mention them. Otherwise, we can go hold on here for a few more minutes
Yeah.
and answer any other questions that you all may have for Eric or myself. Hopefully, my audio has been not horrific. It's probably a little bit echoey. Muddy is the term that gets thrown around for stuff like this, but hopefully it hasn't been horrible. But yeah, if you all have any questions for me or Eric, I don't do my monthly Q&A anymore, and I miss it, and so people should ask me questions.
Yes, I mean we have some new Star Trek coming up this week. The premiere of
Let's
Discovery
see.
season 3 is
5 hours,
coming.
Eric. 5 hours until the first episode of season 3 of Discovery releases here on the. And do I stay up to watch it or do I wait and watch it after work tomorrow? I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna wait.
I have to
But
wait, so I have no. I mean, I think you should wait with me. Otherwise, you're going to
okay.
know before I do.
No, that's fine. I mean, you and I did that. We did that little dance last year, or was it at Dice Tower West?
I think so. Yes.
The Yeah. So yeah, because it was airing, it was finishing up, and you like came down to the game hall at one point, and you were like, "Did you watch it?
Did you
Did you watch
watch
it?" And
it
I was
yet?
like, "I haven't watched it yet."
Yes, I actually beat you on that one. I'm not usually seeing it before you.
I mean, I was trying to be, a responsible con organizer.
Yes, you had stuff to do. Um,
And you know what? Sometimes Star Trek has to wait just a little while. But yeah, Lower Decks just ended last week, their first season, and Discovery's picking up tonight/tomorrow. So Star Trek is in full swing right now. And actually, Creation Entertainment just announced that their rescheduled Star Trek Las Vegas convention that normally happens in August, they had rescheduled it for December. And as of today, it is canceled for December, which is unsurprising.
yeah.
But the interesting thing is CBS is no longer a partner of that convention. So it is no longer an official Star Trek event. It
Interesting.
is just exclusively a Star Trek
It's a
fan
fan con.
convention going forward, which they are going to do it again next August, or at least that's the plan for now. But without CBS, I am worried about the amount of people from the newer shows that will be able to attend. I wonder if it will
Hmm.
kind of revert back to more focus on the actors and the people who worked on the older shows, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but like I want to see all of it. So I'm curious to see where that goes. And if CBS, in fact, will end up partnering with somebody else to do an official convention.
Yeah. Kevin's asking, should I sign up for CBS All Access to check out Discovery? I mean, we're probably the wrong people to ask because we're yes, absolutely. CBS, the network, has been showing season 1 over the air over the past several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just watched episode 3, or I'm actually in the middle of episode 3. That just aired this past week. So you may be able to get some of those on demand just on CBS. Without having to pay for all access, but I think you can get a trial and probably binge and catch up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's only 2 seasons that you'd have to catch up on, at least for Discovery. But then, of course, if you like Star Trek at all, you're going to want to watch Picard and you're going to want to watch Lower Decks,
Yes.
and you're going to want to watch the short treks as well. But, that's just because that's all great. You don't have to watch any of those things, but they're all pretty awesome.
Yeah. We got a question for top 5 Weird Al songs. Parodies not required. That would require some. See, the problem with that is that I don't have that list ready. I would have to go through the
That's
entire
something that
discography.
Well, one, I don't know if it's my favorite. It's definitely in the top 5. I'm literally wearing a shirt with Weird Al lyrics on it right now, which
Yes.
I'm sure that the person didn't know that, but literally my shirt says,
Hey, you got
"Hey,
weasels on your face.
you've got weasels on your face, Zelda." And Albuquerque is one of my all-time favorites. I've gotten to see him perform it live twice because he performed it as an encore for a tour back. Oh gosh, what year was that? I mean, when did Albuquerque came out on the Running with Scissors album? I want to say, which was like around somewhere between like 99 and
99.
2003. Is
It
it
was the
99?
summer of
Okay.
'99.
And he performed as an encore during that tour, and then during this most recent, no, not the most recent tour, the one previous to that, where he was doing the non-parodies, and he was doing a different set list for every show. When I went up to Chicago, he was doing 2 shows in Chicago. My friend Melanie and I went to Chicago together. It was a friendcation. And he opened with the song Melanie. And literally, Melanie and I looked at each other and we just like lost our minds. And then he played Albuquerque that night too. And so the people who had been to the other Chicago show were so bummed because they didn't get to see Albuquerque.
This might be a good one to end with tonight. Jeff asks, how do I introduce gaming to coworkers or friends? Not asking for intro gateway games, but more of how to tell them that I love this hobby and get a game night started. I know this is something I've struggled with and trying not to be too geeky. you know,
Yeah, to overwhelm people.
you want to sort of introduce it as, hey, this is fun, this is a fun thing I do, without being like, I love board games, here I have hundreds, look, good games, I'm gonna go play games, and scare them off, because you can see them sort of glaze over and start backing away. I would say you sort of, if you're talking about coworkers, and again, this is outside of pandemic times, but just do a game night, whether it's at a lunch hour or an after work event, and bring those gateway games, the stuff that's not too heavy, but just say, hey, we're gonna bring some snacks and some drinks, and we're gonna do some games, and we'll be around for a few hours and see what happens. And that's, again, don't go too heavy in that first meeting, but that might lead a few people to say, hey, let's do this again.
And so as far as coworkers are concerned, the thing that has worked for me, I've done it two different ways that have seemed to be successful. I have used board games as a means for team building events because they work pretty well, certain games. I actually did a custom game of Wits and Wagers, kind of like what Tom does on the Dice Tower. And I polled my coworkers about some of their interests and then made questions based on, one question was based on each of my coworkers' individual interests. So like a TV show that they like or a sport that they like, things like that. Huh. And so then it was framed as a team building event. So they had to do it, but it ended up being more fun and interesting than team building events tend to be. I've also used One Night Ultimate Werewolf as a team building event before. And then the other way that I've introduced them to coworkers is to not necessarily gateway games. Oh gosh, I hit my microphone. Hopefully that didn't make a loud noise.
It's fine.
But super light, easy to pop in and out of games that have good table presence. So Strike is actually a really good thing that I've used before, and Catch the Moon, the dexterity game where you're stacking the ladders, because as long as you can get one other person in from the get-go and start playing, other people, I've taken it to we'll go to a bar for happy hour and I'll bring a couple games like that, put it on the table, get one person, be like, hey, do you want to do this thing with me? Okay, sure, whatever, we're just sitting here. Then other people will see all these ladders stacked up and they literally are drawn to it. They're like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, here, take a ladder, put it on, just play the games casually, get them interested. I'm telling you, I had 3 people order Catch the Moon and Just One instantly after I introduced it to them at a bar during happy hour, and they would have ordered Strike had it been available at that point. I need to tomorrow go tell my coworker Jeremy that Strike is back at Target.
I bought it today. I ordered it today.
No, I did too, Eric.
Yeah.
I already own 2 copies, but now I'm gonna have 3. I bought so many games from Target today online. I had a $25 gift card, and then Target was doing $25 off of a purchase of $100 or more. So I bought 7 games and then I used my gift card. I paid $65 for 7 games. I'm so excited.
That's pretty intense. I made a couple purchases. I got the Princess Bride game and Strike and some coffee because I needed to. Nice. And then I saw if you go over this line, I said, nope, I'm moving soon. I do not need more than these 2 that I specifically wanted. That's it. I'm not.
Yeah, no, I bought, I did The Shining, Hocus Pocus, Princess Bride, the Neil Patrick Harris mystery box escape room thing.
Oh, yeah.
Box 1. I did 2 exit games and then Strike. So yeah, a wide variety of things, most of which I can't even play right now because of the pandemic, but I couldn't resist.
Yes. This is the hobby we're in.
Yep.
I hadn't
bought a bunch of games in a long time. I think a Valve got released for me today.
Coraloo said the best way to get the coworkers interested is when people ask you how your weekend was, you start telling them all about the fun and interesting games you got to play, and they'll let you know if that's interesting to them.
That's actually a really good point. Like, there are some people who know of hobby games already, like at least ancillarily, like, oh yeah, I went over to my friend's house and we played Ticket to Ride or whatever. Like
Yeah.
they'll be aware, but most people aren't, they don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yes.
So if you can gently push them toward the rabbit hole instead of just throwing them into it, that's helpful.
I was driving on the highway just a couple days ago with the kids in the car, and a van pulled in front of me that had a Catan bumper sticker. And I went, what? I wanted to follow them and figure out where they were going, and
Wait,
you want to
we
play a
should
game?
be friends.
We should hang out sometime.
That's happened to me with other bumper stickers before. I'm like, ooh, you're a person I would like, but then they're gone. I'm like, what?
Anyway, that's probably where we should end it for now. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and your comments and suggestions in our various topics, and helping Crystal just barely get the win in Trivia Trolls.
Absolutely. And we will be back again in 2 weeks on October 28th, right before Halloween. So I don't know what our topic will be, but hope maybe it'll be spooky. But before you all click away from the video this evening, if you could do me one tiny favor and please click the thumbs up button below the video to let the YouTube algorithms know that you enjoyed participating in tonight's show and that you want your friends to see it when they open YouTube, because the more people that see it after the fact, the more people that it's visible to in the future. And honestly, it's just all good for us and it makes me smile. So come on, you want to make me smile, don't you?
I do.
All right. Well, so we will see you at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on October 28th. But until then, I'm Crystal.
I'm Eric.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thank you for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for another installment. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Mike Delisio, Roy Kennedy, and Rob Searing. Beef stomach dishes for Mom, Dad, Grandpa, Grandma, and little Timmy, brought to you by Five Tripes. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at crystal@dicetower.com or eric@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
And I have to say, Eric, the pun that you used in this week's podcast, it was cast L. I literally laughed out loud in my car. So
that's good.
I like the game, but it was good. The pun was great.
That is my goal. I was speaking directly to you and just hoping to get a good reaction.
Perfect.
So
success. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.